Hey everyone, happy Thursday. Welcome to So What, the Marketing Analytics and Insights live show. I am Katie, joined by Chris and John. Howdy,
Hello.
fellas. Oh, we got it. First try. This week, we're talking about analyzing your YouTube data with generative AI. And we wanted to talk specifically about YouTube because this is our anniversary. We started doing this live stream, 5 years ago? Oh, Chris has the...
He was specifically told not to launch fireworks.
And it's funny, I'll tell the quick story. The reason I remember that this is the anniversary of us starting the live stream is because on the very first episode in September, my husband was taking out the air conditioner on the floor above me. And instead of pulling it in, he accidentally pushed it out and launched it. So it went out the window on the second floor in front of my office window. And myself and the two dogs at the time, nobody heard it, nobody noticed. But the poor guy comes running down the stairs, all panicked, knowing that I'm on a live stream and trying to signal me to make sure everyone was okay. But I didn't know what had happened. It was a whole thing. So that was our very first episode. And look how far we've come. Guys, you excited? 5 years later?
Are there any air conditioners in motion today?
No, not today. But since we took it out on Sunday, that was what had reminded me that this was about that time that we likely started the live stream. So when we looked into it, we saw, yes, it was indeed the anniversary of when we started the live stream. So congratulations, guys. 5 years.
5 years.
I don't see an end in sight. The purpose of us starting this was to really showcase how to do things. It's really a how-to, because the name So What is really, it's really that. So when you get a report, when you get an analysis, when somebody hands you a document, the first question you should be asking respectfully is, so what? What's in this for me? What do I do with this information? And that has been always the core mission of the live stream.
Exactly. It's interesting because it originated from the live stream I was doing on Saturday nights, where I was just messing around. And Katie was like, this is not bad, except for the fact that you're doing things that literally not
at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night on Facebook.
Exactly.
I was like, there's probably an audience. Let's do this. We can do better.
Yes, and a bit more focused then. Here's what I'm messing around with today, with absolutely no strategy whatsoever.
Yes. Well, and there is still a bit of that. We just try to package it up a little bit more formally, but even that, sometimes we don't hit the mark. So with that, we thought it would be good to, because the live stream is broadcast on YouTube and other channels, but primarily YouTube, and it lives on YouTube, we thought it would be a good opportunity to do a demo of analyzing your YouTube data with generative AI. Where should we start?
I would say probably we should start at the same place that we always start everything literally all the time, which is the 5P framework. Why would we want to do this?
If we're talking about the live stream, then we would always start with the purpose. And that's, what question are we answering? What is the problem we're solving? And so the question that we're answering with our YouTube data, by looking at it, is likely, what is the engagement of our So What live stream? Is it doing anything? Is the audience growing? Do people care about it? Is it a show that we should continue to spend time on? Because it does take time out of our schedules. John has stats to crunch. Chris has science to data and data to science. And, I just need to boss people around. So do we need to spend the time continuing to do the show? Is it making any kind of impact?
Right. So there's a bunch of different ways to go at this, but one of the things that we'd want to think about is, do we even need AI to analyze the data? Which is a perfectly fair question. If the answer might be yes, it might be no. It's unclear. And the second thing is that YouTube's data is kind of hard to work with. So if you've not worked with YouTube data before. YouTube provides in YouTube Studio this lovely thing called YouTube Analytics. And YouTube Analytics comes in two flavors. It comes in advanced mode and not advanced mode. And not advanced mode is not terribly helpful. Advanced mode at least tells you a bit more about what's going on. So if I look at 2025, so I'm looking here at our channel, and I'm looking at a breakdown by content, and I'm looking at your typical metrics. What we can see just at a very cursory glance, our top 3 videos by views are the podcast, followed by a short, which is derived from the podcast, followed by an episode of So What on Vibe Marketing. And then a couple of one little silly thing, another live stream, and then some ads, and then more podcasts. So just at a very cursory glance, you can see that what gets views on our channel is mostly our podcast, which is good because we're doing that. It'd be kind of weird if we didn't. And the live stream is at least in there somewhere, and it's not completely absent.
I see a bunch of entries for the live stream.
Yeah, once you scroll down, you start seeing more of the live stream. But the podcast is definitely the premier property on YouTube. Now, this alone is useful, and if you wanted to just take a screenshot of this and feed this to like a Google Gemini, you could say, hey, give me a nicer looking report that I could use with this to show the CEO that what we're doing on YouTube actually works. And so let's start with that. We're going to take this screenshot here. We'll go into Google's Gemini. Use the AI tool of your choice. Claude is fine. ChatGPT is fine. Gemini is fine. Copilot, not so much, because it doesn't really have a very good canvas. I'm going to select canvas. I'm going to say, from this YouTube data, create a one-page report for the CEO of Trust Insights to explain what is working and not working on our YouTube channel. The podcast we do is called In-Ear Insights. The live stream is called So What. There are YouTube shorts in the data. We will want to look at things like views, subscriber acquisition, and impression click-through rate as metrics that our CEO might be interested in to understand the performance of our YouTube channel to date. So if we put that there and we grab our screenshot, put it in here, our CEO cares about acquiring audience and then getting that audience to do something like head to our website or at the very least engage with our content. Our CEO also likes things to be very direct and clear, having good quality reporting. Build the report in the canvas using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript so that any math you do is computed in JavaScript. Build the report now in the canvas. So we'll give it that as a jumping off point, just to report on what is in here. However, this is, I would call this the starting point, because this is really, well, Katie, do you want to talk through sort of the hierarchy of analytics? Because I know you talked about it in our new course, the AI strategy course, which you can get at trustinsights.ai/AI strategy course. We want to talk about the hierarchy of analytics.
Yeah. So, and this is, where I think people kind of get a little confused, because you have to start at the foundation. If you think of it sort of like building your house from foundation to roof and chimney and all that stuff, the foundational layer of your data is your quantitative analytics, the what happened, your numeric values. That's where you're starting. That's your foundation. If you start to jump ahead to, your qualitative data or any kind of future forecasting, then you've totally missed, getting things squared away first. So start with the quantitative data, the what happened. Then you can move on to the qualitative data, which is your feedback data, your reviews, your comments. That's your why did it happen? Because people are going to give you more information like, I gave you a thumbs down because I don't like the shirt you're wearing. Or I gave you a thumbs up because John has cool hair, so those kinds of things. That's the why. And then you can move on to what's going to happen next. That's when you can take those data layers, the I always get them confused, quantitative and qualitative, and start to think about future forecasting. That's your predictive. And then you sort of move up from there, but don't skip over that foundation.
Exactly. And so what Gemini spit out just from this screenshot was, hey, from this image, you have 5,700 views, 28 new subscribers, and an average click-through of 1.76%. What's working? The podcast. High average view count of 1,453 accounts for significant share of total views. Subscriber acquisition is relatively low. The live stream has the highest weighted average impression click-through rate. So the live stream attracts new folks to the channel, and then shorts are just what they are there. So it says, hey, amplify the live streams. This is the most effective tool for acquiring new audience. Analyze the low click-through on your Insights episodes. Consider updating thumbnails and titles, etc. And don't bother doing YouTube shorts. They don't work for us, at least from this particular set of data. Now, this is just one screenshot, so this is not the whole table.
I'm not surprised that YouTube shorts don't work for us. When I think about YouTube, it's a social platform, but it's also a search engine. And taking the shorts out of context is tough for a platform like YouTube. We can get away with the short videos on a LinkedIn or an Instagram because we can give a whole narrative to go along with what's happening in the episode. But to take a short and just a snippet of a quote, I personally feel like that doesn't totally translate on a YouTube short, whereas I feel like a YouTube short is better used for someone to show a quick recipe of how something's done. Something a little bit more engaging than just a talking head is the way that I think about YouTube shorts. What about you, John? What's your opinion on them?
Yeah, this is, constant B2B struggle is kind of, can you do anything that's interesting? And a big part of it is just because so much of shorts is spectacle. The same with TikTok, right? It's just like showing crazy things happening. You're much better off with some puppies or somebody, getting hit by a truck than talking about B2B stuff. And it's unfortunate, because I've seen situations where, we have a partner that we work with who has heavy machinery, in their factory, and they run these videos and they do get hundreds of thousands of views, but none of it translates to business. It's just people are just interested in watching this stuff happen, but it doesn't come across. So yeah, I'm right with you. And that your shorts, unless you have, if you're product driven, if you're going to show, I bought these things that go in my car between the seat and the console. You know how you always drop your phone down there? Well, you put this thing there and it catches your phone. And in a short, I saw that. I was like, oh my God, I need that. I don't care where it's from, who it is, I'm buying it. But, unless your product is that simple, yeah, shorts are not going to cut it for you.
So you're the guy in the infomercial that they start with the, oh no, and it turns black and white. And then suddenly your world is color when you have that solution.
When I'm not got my hand wedged between the seat and the console trying to get my phone back, I'm just like, I need my phone.
All right, Chris, we've gone off track long enough. So we talked about shorts. So we've been talking about the quantitative data that comes from YouTube analytics. And this is what Gemini has started to put together.
Right. Now, here's the problem with this. This is okay. It's missing a lot of data, right? Because you can only screenshot so much. And we have a lot of content. And it's also, it's not terribly prescriptive other than on a format basis, right? Say like, hey, shorts work less well than podcasts or live streams. But beyond that, it's not particularly insightful. So what are the things that you would want to derive from this kind of data?
I would want to know if, and I'm not going to limit myself to whether we can or can't answer this question with this data, but in doing this kind of content, I want to know if we're actually helping people to do a thing, and are we reaching the right audiences? When somebody's watching the video, are they going, this is really good, these are really good insights, this is helpful, this is going to help me do my job better, this is going to help me move my career forward, whatever those is. I'm more concerned about people getting something from it than I am from like the click-through rates or these, the quantitative metrics. Yes, I care about those because I know that those are indicators of the questions that I'm asking. And that's where I have to start to sort of put those pieces together.
Right. And so one of the things that you'd want to look at would be like average percentage viewed. Like how much of the episode did somebody get through? Because if the answer is 0, that they didn't find it helpful. They got in, they watched for 2 seconds, like, nope, I'm out. You know, I can't watch an Asian talking head.
Sean, leave that one alone. You and I are not touching that.
Not in this episode.
Did I tell you about the thing that goes in my car?
So what we can do, however, is we can put that percentage viewed column in here, and there's a variety of metrics that you can look at to see, like, you know, views, average view duration, etc., when it was published, etc., etc. So there's a lot of different metrics in here. We could add in unique viewers, how many actual human beings watched, how many people came back, or how many regular viewers do we have. And if I apply all of these metrics to this table, we start to get a different look at the universe of our YouTube channel. So we can see average percentage views. There is it says it can't do longer than a certain period of time. So data for regular viewers is not available for March of 2025. Okay, cool, that's fine. We'll take off the regular viewers then, since that data is just not available. And what we might want to do is export the data. However, the challenge is YouTube only exports 500 rows at a time, which is obnoxious, because it means that you can't get all the data about all the videos if you have more than 500 of them, because we have, between live streams and podcasts and newsletters, we have like 1,700 videos. One of the things that we always want to know has something popped back up that we didn't know about previously? Maybe it got hot. So the way to tackle that, which is a pain in the butt, but you can do it, is you have to go through and manually export a month at a time, because you'll get the 500 rows of data of views and stuff about your channel. This way, make sure the metrics are all the same that you want to be getting. And then up in the corner here is the CSV file. So I can go down and get January. Let me go in and get February. Oops, it did not like that. 2/28, 25, 2/1/25. And export that. And then you can get like the last 3 months pretty easily just by tapping those months there. So that's a bit of a time saver. I would recommend that if you want to be doing this kind of analysis, that maybe you just go in every month and grab the data. If you do that, then you don't have to go messing around with, using the date selector. You look puzzled, Katie.
Well, I have a couple of questions. One is there an API for YouTube Analytics that would allow you to, in a more automated way, get this data on a regular basis and just like put it in a SQLite database or in a Google Sheet or something, rather than having to do this?
There absolutely is. There is a YouTube data API, and to get to it, you have to register as a Google developer. You have to open a Google Cloud account. You have to enable billing on your account. Then you have to enable the YouTube data API. Then you have to set up a service account, download your service account key, and then plug that service account key into the analysis system of your choice. Can it be done? Absolutely. And we have done that. And we've done that in the past. We do that for ourselves separately. Are we doing it for today's show? I hadn't planned to, because the hoops you have to jump through to get that working are somewhere between crazy and stupid.
Well, no, and I don't think we need to necessarily demonstrate that. I was just more curious for those who have the skill set and the resources to do that kind of development. The other question I have for you is more about, let's say, and I guess this is true for any kind of platform that has the data inside of it. could you take a screenshot of the data and almost kind of reverse engineer and say, here's the data I have available. What kinds of questions can I answer with this data?
Could you do that? Yes, you could. You absolutely could. And that's generally not a bad idea to in terms of practices, to say, well, what could I do with this information? What could I make from it?
And I think that that's one of the things that, as data analysis evolves and people are beginning their careers and they have 20 platforms in their tech stack, and they're adding on new ones every day, it can feel overwhelming. And so the definitions from platform to platform are going to differ, even if the labels are similar. So maybe that's a way to you know I think one of the things that I might do if I was just starting is I would take screenshots of the data available in all of the systems that I have to use, start to get almost like a library of, here's what I can do with this data, here's what I can do with this data, and maybe then set up like a notebook LM of data that's available to me and questions that I can answer, or like where to look when somebody asks me a question, like where am I going, and kind of map it out that way.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a fantastic way of doing it, because it allows you to be curious and it allows you to let the AI do what it is best at, which is that big picture knowledge
Mhm.
that we often as humans don't bring to the table, because it's what you don't know is what it boils down to. Like, I don't know what I do or don't know about a given topic, because I can't say what I don't know. By definition, I don't know it. But if I say, here's a bunch of data, think of it like this. And this is something our account manager, Kelsey, talks about all the time. One of her primary uses for AI. Open your refrigerator, take a picture of it, and say, what can I make?
Mhm.
Right? You could do the exact same thing with your data, and you should do the exact same thing with your data.
Yeah, I think it just sort of occurred to me as I'm looking at the data in the YouTube analytics. If I were just starting, I would probably start to approach it that way, so that when someone says, hey, can we get the answer to this question, I could go to my library of data points that I've built in like a notebook LM and say, where do I find answers to the following questions? What data do I have available to answer these questions, to kind of get you there faster? Because that's a question that comes up a lot, is, do we have the data? And
Mm-hmm.
how great would it be to be like, yes, we do, and here's where it lives, and here's the system that it's in, and here's the metrics that we look at to answer those questions.
That sounds like a data governance issue.
Yeah, probably.
Where could we learn more about that?
If you wanted to learn more about data governance and how to set that up correctly, you can find more about that in the trustinsights.ai/AI strategy course. Or if you're looking for a more budget-friendly version, you can go to trustinsights.ai/strategic toolkit, which takes away all of my talking heads for 8 hours and just gets you down to the point. But no, in all seriousness, I think that that's maybe a topic that we should explore, and maybe try that on a future live stream and set that up. Maybe we could take like a smaller asset like marketing over coffee, and because I would venture a guess, John, that you have far fewer tools in your tech stack than we do for Trust Insights.
Yeah, no. In fact, the principle is, the first answer is no as far as adding new tools. We're avoiding that at all costs. I do have to ask Chris, though, because it kind of bothers me. Like, why wouldn't YouTube just dump into BigQuery? Like, that's right there. Is it are they trying to just force you to use their interface? And like, what does Mr. Beast do? I can't imagine that he's like pouring through this interface here.
No, so Mr. Beast would probably use third-party tools to begin with.
Just dumped a third party.
Dumped a third-party
Well, and he
tools.
probably wouldn't do it himself either.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, he has a team. They're not going to be like doing this.
Exactly. And a lot of this is really aimed at the small to mid-sized creator, right? People like us, but who don't have data analysis skills. Yeah, so you just look at this, just eyeball and go, okay, well, I guess this video did well, or this video did not do well. So cool. So what we could do, and the next step in this process would be, well, what if we took all that data and started to work with it? So when you download all that data, annoyingly, all the tables have exactly the same name. So you end up with
Unhelpful.
data that looks like this, table copy 22, right? And as is typical with Google, they always put in a total row, which completely hoses your ability to analyze it, because anything you're trying to do sum things up, it just totally screws that up. So you have to go through and edit the files as they come in to make them ready for use with machines. Now, again, as you pointed out, Katie, that's something that you absolutely could automate if you wanted to. It's relatively straightforward to do. Or in this ad hoc case, we're just going to do it manually. Yep. So our next step would be, well, how could we build something that would allow us to analyze this data in greater capacity? And the answer to that would be something like Google Colab. So I'm going to start a new.
That was going to be my guess.
Yes. So Google Colab, for those who are unfamiliar, is data science software. It is data science software that is a coding environment, but for the last 6 months or so, they have added Google's Gemini into Colab in increasing amounts, so that you can now have it do all of the actual typing, which is nice, and then it will make stuff for you. So we might want to say to this thing, let's take all of this data that we have here, just drag and drop it into our prompt, and we're going to give it a fairly extensive prompt. Let's say we want all of the CSV files. We want to ingest them all. We tell it, here's what's in the box. It's YouTube data. We know there's issues. Here are the known issues in these files. Here's how we should think about analyzing it. Here's what's in the box. So, videos that start with "so what" is the live stream. Video starts with podcast, or "in your insights" is the podcast, and so on and so forth. And let's start analyzing this data. You will see it after I hit go. It will start to build itself its own to-do list. And from that to-do list, you'll notice then it creates its own plan of action, and Python code will start appearing in the window. And this will take between 3 and 5 minutes to get through the data itself, assemble the requisite pieces. You can see it's starting to read the files, and then start producing some level of analysis. One of the challenges with Colab is that you kind of have to know what to ask for.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the same as like ChatGPT, where you can say, hey, what about this? Colab's version of Gemini is optimized for coding.
But if you do know what you're asking for, then it's an incredibly powerful tool. One of the ways, unsurprisingly, that we teach people to use Google Colab is by starting with something like the 5 Ps. And so it's a way to gather your requirements. So what am I trying to do? Who is it for? What are the steps in the process? What are the platforms that this needs to be compatible with? And what is the performance? What are the outputs? And even that's going to start to set you up for success with using a platform like Google Colab, because that's what it's looking for. It's looking for those end-to-end, not the sort of shrug, like, I don't know, maybe just give me whatever. It's wanting those specific details, and having your requirements is going to be really essential for getting that done.
Exactly. And so the second half of our prompt is to say, hey, you've got all this data now. Here's how to think about analyzing it. So we know the outcome we're after, which is views. In this example, we want more views on our YouTube channel. You could also do average percentage viewed, right? To say like, hey, I care about getting people through our show. That would be an equally good outcome. Based on that, you would give it a second prompt, and it will then pick up where it left off and say, oh, okay, you want me to engineer some new features. Like, does the week of the year or the year of the month of the year matter? Like, are there shows that do better or worse during a certain period of time? And it will go through, and then you also give it like, hey, here's some ideas for how to do the testing. What kind of algorithm should you use? So the light GBM, XGBoost, all the classical machine learning stuff that we talked about on Monday's podcast, I believe. This week's Trust Insights podcast, about AI decisioning
Mhm.
and how you can't leave behind classical machine learning because it can still work with numbers, whereas generative AI, not so much.
It occurs to me, and this is maybe sort of like the phase 2 of this kind of analysis, is if you wanted to make a more robust analysis with real, actionable insights in addition to this YouTube data, I would also pair it with your web analytics. And so if one of my questions, if my purpose is, I want YouTube driving people to the website or taking action to fill out a form or contact something, I probably need to provide that data. And so I would say we would probably also want to grab the channel data from Google Analytics, for example. But that could be a phase 2 once you sort of get all of your YouTube data squared away. Um, just sort of thinking like, what are all the pieces of data I would need to fully answer a question, which again is why we always start with something like the 5 Ps, because that gives you the opportunity to say, do I have everything that I need to answer the question? The other framework that I would throw out here is the 6 Cs of data quality. I don't have a fun little label for that one, but basically, it's covering the question being asked. Is the data clean? Is it comprehensive? All those good things are going to help make sure that you can get to an actionable analysis.
Exactly. And so it has gone through and it has created its assessment based on the machine learning data. However, its assessment is ugly as hell and almost useless. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's not particularly helpful. So what we can do though is we can either have regular Gemini clean it up, or we can feed it to a coding LLM to actually build an application that does this. And so in the background, while we've had this episode going on, I had Claude take the exact same prompt, the exact same data, and try to bake a report, the report being something that we can take a look at and make it a lot less statistical and a lot more useful in terms of, okay, well, what are the things that we should be doing? So it has the same feature analysis. It has the same performance trends. It has model performance, but at the top it says, hey, here's the things you should be doing. Increase the number of podcasts you do. 6% of your top performers, higher view counts and engagement. Aim to produce podcast content 2 to 3 times a week. Shorter, more focused content optimization. Top performers are shorter than medians, right? Because there's a decent number of short pieces that does have some correlation. So we're using an algorithm called XGBoost, gradient boosting. Gradient boosting does something that in the data science world is super useful. It looks at the interactions of different metrics. So instead of looking at just one measure like average time viewed or number of views or subscribers, it tries to essentially do almost kind of a causal analysis to say how much does each measure influence other measures, something called feature importance. And from those conclusions, it can see that while length may not be a huge driver, it does contribute to the outcome that we care about. Increase newsletter production. Plan 2-3 newsletter videos a month. Okay, we're already doing that. Good. SEO topics show high predictive importance. So do more topics on SEO, podcasts, and then the low priority seasonality. There's very little seasonality in our stuff because we're just doing this stuff all the time around. Unsurprisingly, the podcast, because there's so much more of it in our data, because we've been doing it the longest, shows the most successful pattern. And then there really isn't a pattern in terms of particular topic. So one of the things that we had to do was engineer out of 10 different topics like AI, change management stuff. Is there a topic that based on the show title, like, yeah, do more of this? Turns out there isn't.
We put the videos into, we tag them with different categories. Is that data not available?
Not in YouTube. Not in this report. We would have to export that from the API.
Gotcha. Because that's one of those things that, like, I know that we've made a conscious effort to tag videos of, like, this is an AI video or this is a, whatever type of video. And so it's a little disheartening to know that that data then can't make it, I know it's more for the user for, like, when they're searching, but, like, to also do the analysis on it would probably be helpful.
So the data is available in there in aggregate. So if we look at the raw data itself, we have topics: is AI, is analytics, is marketing, is social media, is SEO, podcast topic, data science, business strategy, tools, etc. So those topics are encoded in here based on the show titles. It doesn't. I didn't pull it from that part because it's not visible in the YouTube analytics interface. We would have to go to the API to get that.
But that's my point is, so
Yeah.
yes, it's in the API and you're deriving these from the titles, which we've done a much better job about calling things what they are and not coming up with, like, fancy marketing jargon, but that's still frustrating. I guess what I'm saying is, like, for the non-API user who's trying to just get some analytics, the fact that you can't just get that data to analyze is, a bit disheartening.
Right. And YouTube has made their interface for the non-technical person who frankly isn't going to bring much in the way of analytics to the party either. They just want to know, what should I do? What should I do more of? And there is other stuff in here that we could certainly put in, that you could put into the system to try and broadly analyze what's going on with your channel. So in your channel analytics, you can look at your overall audience. Let's look at the overall audience for 2025. And you can see, for example, our monthly audience, about 900 people. Most of our folks is new viewers. The content that's popular with different kind of audiences. So regular viewers is all mostly podcasts. Casual is leads with the live stream, and then the shorts are the new viewers. So there's a case where the shorts are getting new people who might be checking out the channel. Again, we didn't see that in the actual data. So YouTube is just very quickly summarizing stuff, possibly in a misleading way.
A
Here,
Google
videos
system bundling up stuff incorrectly. Come on.
As most people watch on their computer versus the mobile phone. So there's a lot of high level data here, but this doesn't make it into the advanced analytics interface.
And, because of the way that they have it, spread out, I'm hard pressed to say, yeah, I know exactly what we should do next. I know exactly what we need to do. But what I can tell you is, based on this high level analysis, I know that we're not doing anything erroneous, that we're doing things that we should continue to do. So one of the things we started doing more recently was recording a video version of our newsletter. So Chris, you've been doing that for a long time, but we more recently started doing it, and it's not zero. It's doing something. And that to me is like, okay, so it's not a complete waste of time. And honestly, it takes me about 15 minutes, maybe longer if I have to restart a few times. But it's doing something. And part of what it's doing is it's feeding AI search, which is one of the goals. But the other is it's just opening up the newsletter to a wider audience and making it a little bit more accessible.
Exactly. The last thing that's interesting is in the content tab, YouTube has a new tab called Inspiration, where it attempts to look at the content that gets engagements on your channel and suggest future shows for you. Very often, you need to do some maintenance on your channel first before this becomes useful, because anyone who's run a YouTube channel for more than 2 minutes knows you get a lot of spam bots leaving random comments. That messes with YouTube analytics. That messes with the system recommendations. So you will get recommendations here that make no sense at all, because it's going off of what people commented on and what they said in their comments. So, for example, I have to check in like once a quarter and prune out all those random cryptocurrency spam comments, because otherwise this all becomes, ideas for content. Make your next video about Bitcoin. Like, no, that's not a thing.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be disappointed if one of our recommendations isn't to make an infomercial about the seat saver for John's phone in his car.
I was just going to say, wait, you've took out all my crypto comments?
No, I mean, and I think that that's an incredibly helpful pro tip, because I look at this, I'm like, well, that's not useful to us at all. Like that isn't the kind of content we'd be creating. So, but it speaks to, again, the spam bots that we get.
Right. And to the overarching thing with AI, which is AI is only as good as the data you give it. So if YouTube is being fed with crap data from your channel that is all spam, all of its recommendations are going to suck too.
Yeah. And now the big question that John, I always ask you, when is marketing over coffee going on YouTube?
Got another batch of videos just sitting in a pile in my inbox ready to be posted. So the worst part is I'm paying for the tool too, which is insane. But
so John, you are our end user. You are our audience.
Yeah, I definitely am the audience. And I did finally, after years and years, fix a bunch of analytics stuff for marketing over coffee over the past 2 weeks. So at least there's some forward motion, but yeah, there's an infinite amount of work, unfortunately.
It says, yeah, your phone, the phone wasn't holding the phone, so they wedged the front cover in the ash. There you go.
Well,
that's
one
the
way to do it.
solution. No special device needed. You just need a phone cover that you can wedge into the ashtray of your car.
Well, if your car has an ashtray, that says everything about how old it is.
Exactly.
All my smoking and driving is regular.
All right. I think we're done.
I think we're done.
We're done here.
We're done.
Any final thoughts on our anniversary episode?
We're 5 years in. Here's to 5 more years. I'm excited to see where else we can take this show. I think that, we do a lot of good with doing demos. And so the question is, what haven't we done that would be really valuable for people? So that might be a question that I put to our community, our Analytics for Marketers community, free to join. But really, what are the demos that you're dying to see that you don't want to have to sign up with a vendor for? Is it something that we could handle? I think that's really sort of the next evolution, is getting even more focused in on what our ICP wants to see versus what we think might be cool.
Exactly. So go join the Slack group. Go join the Slack group and let us know. We want to hear from you. And we will see you all for the next 5 years of So What. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you next time. Thanks for watching today. Be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you're watching it. For more resources and to learn more, check out the Trust Insights podcast at trustinsights.ai/TI podcast and a weekly email newsletter at trustinsights.ai/newsletter. Got questions about what you saw in today's episode? Join our free Analytics for Marketers Slack group at trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. See you next time.